joined the church through her parents, who were the cousins of our founder, Hee Moon. She was one of the first founding members of the so-called Little Angels dance troupe. Many of you probably have seen them. Well, back some decades ago, Hee Moon Davies was one of the first. And she went on to be a premier Korean folk ballet dancer and teacher. She headed the department at our Little Angels school in Seoul, Korea for a number of years. She then married an American, came to the United States, became a graduate of the Unification Theological Seminary, where she received both her master's and doctorate, and then she went on to be the dean of students. And fortunately, our true mother, some few months ago, asked her to come to work here in Las Vegas. And she's presently the vice president of development at our Wongu University of Oriental Medicine. And she is an elder member of our congregation. I want to welcome to the podium Dr. Davies.
Wow, did I did that all again? Yeah. Thank you for your introduction from me. I must be old to go through all that. Well, actually, Dr. Guerra asked me several times to give a sermon, but I politely said no. I don't know why. I just felt like I was not ready. Just, Dr. Guerra, you missed one thing. I was the minister at the Commando.
Yes.
So I was not shy, obviously, standing in the front of everybody.
We can't hear you back there.
This sound.
Can you raise the volume of the
okay.
microphone a little bit?
All right, I will try. Okay, it's better, right?
It's better.
I still, when I stand at the podium, I still think about Father Moon, whom I was able to meet him at the very, very isolated way south part of Korea. It is 2.5 hours by ferry from the mainland. Since we built called another Cheonhwagung, it is the name of the building. He built there in the Commando. Since then, he visited Commando 24 times until he went to the spiritual world in 1.5 year time period. So when I'm standing and talking about to all of you, I just remember him. Oh, so I was not ready for him. I came here because Mrs. Moon called me, as Dr. Guerra said, and I came with full of energy here because I just came from the minister's position and landed here. So my spirit was high, and then on and off, I felt like I couldn't do what I really hoped to do. And I felt like maybe my voice is, maybe I must be quiet or something. I went through some of the struggling. And I sometimes walk the dog in the morning. Excuse me. And then I was struggling myself. My family is back in Korea. I have 2 daughters and my husband. And I'm here by myself. And this mission, without I go 100% on focus, I can be lonely. I don't want to do that, so I just want to dedicate myself here. I was not planning to cry in front of you. I don't know why I'm doing this. Embarrass me. I had so many thoughts in my mind when I was walked the dog one morning. And then I came home and then I took the shower. And before I went to school to work, I sometimes open the Bible and read it. And some phrases gave me enlightenment. And that was Job. Job, okay, can we read aloud together? God said, "Who is this that darkens my counsel with words without knowledge?
You shall answer me.
Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Who marked off its dimension? Who stretched a measuring line across it? When the morning stars stand together, and then all the angels shouted for joy. Who shut up the sea behind the doors when it burst forth from the womb? Have you ever given orders to the morning or shown the dawn its place?" When I read this phrase, I felt I'm hopeless and vulnerable. There is nothing I can change. God can do everything. And why I want to go by my way, I should be humble myself before God. Job's situation probably was the same as my situation or worse. He was beloved servant. In the Old Testament, he was a servant, he says. He was humble and very loyal to God. And God loved him a lot. And one day, there was so many people, and including Satan. God told Satan and praise Job. And how loyal he is, how humble he is, how good person he is. And the Satan said, "Oh, he got everything, That's why he can be very nice person. He has everything. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He was rich. He was in a good place." So God said, "Okay, then you can test him, but you cannot take away his life, but you can test him." So he had many oxes and camels and so many animals at that time, and little by little it was all killed. And the servant came and dashed to the owner and says that, "Oh, it was killed by this group and this tribe." And then that was not enough. And then later, the servants were killed. But that was not enough. So in one day, when there was some gathering among brothers, his children, they were all killed. But even that time, Job didn't blame God. I'm sorry. I'm getting older, so my eyesight. He said in the Bible, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return there. the Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. So he still was a praise God. And so God was very proud of Job. And he just told how good he was. And then Satan didn't like that. And Satan says, oh, still he has so many left over, so many blessings. That's why he can give. He can be the way he was. So again, God said to Satan, "You can test him, but don't take away his life." And since then, he is going through really hard time. He got sores and boils all top of his head to the toe. He couldn't bear it. It was painful, and it was so, he wanted to scratch, so he just took the piece of pottery sitting on the ash and then scratched himself. And then wife said, "You better die." And he just, she was, it was, for her, it was miserable to watching him suffering, and still was not blaming God. So she didn't want to deal with it anymore, and she said, "You still hold your integrity, curse God and die." Job regretted he was born even, because it was so painful, but didn't curse God. And Job thought that God was not with him anymore. More and more, he felt less love, and he regretted he was born, but he was afraid to death at the same time. And during that time, 3 friends visited him to comfort him, but they couldn't recognize him because he was looking really, really bad. So they tried to please and comfort as much as they could. They said, someday sinful man would be destroyed and righteous man will be saved by God. One of our friends suggested Job to take the punishment humbly. And another friend said, "It's your consequence what you have done." And some says, "A righteous man doesn't fail. You must take your mistake humbly." And all those words, he was really bothered. He thought that, friends can say that easily, but he felt that friends didn't understand him, what he was going through, and whatever friends said that hurt him. So this Job is very long. It goes from 1 to 41, as I remember. So there is a lot of conversation, a lot of argument, and a lot of kind of blaming to each other. And I thought, okay, that's who I am. That's the reality, who we are now even, We try to do something for others, but that person somehow get hurt, and then blaming the other. So it's on and on like that, continuously. And Job thought God sometimes punished the innocent man. He started to think like that. His pain was unbearable. His faith was changing from absolute faith to doubtful faith. He thought, why God is not helping me? Why he ignores me? Where is it? His pain was enormous. He rather wanted to die. After all the judgment and criticize and fears, Job hears God's voice, finally. So he was waiting for that moment so long. God left him alone up to verses maybe 37, from 1 to 37. It's a long verses. And he was so happy to listen to him. And then that's what God said here. When God was working for us, for the earth, for everything, what did we do? We did nothing. But we complain about this and that still. God is silent when we feel we are capable enough to handle everything by ourselves. He waited for us until we are vulnerable, weak, so humbly surrender ourselves before God. Then we can hear His voice. He's the owner of the whole universe and the cause of the universal principle. He has everything, and we have nothing. We have to live with empty hands when we leave this world. We must humbly surrender before God. Faith requires self-denial and repentance. As Pastor Guerra mentioned about me, I was a dancer about 30 years. And that dancing is external kind of a beauty. And as I get fame and money, somehow something deep inside, I felt so lonely, and I was not happy. And I heard that Father Moon asked all the members to go back to his hometown, our hometown. And my husband's hometown is in Seattle. So we flew to, we immigrated. So when I quit my career, I was on top of in the position. I was in a very, very comfortable and secure position. And my mother didn't understand my 23 dance teachers. I had 23 dance teachers in my department. They all didn't understand why I was leaving. But I felt that something, I was searching something deep inside. At that time, I was age 40. I didn't know why. I just decided to leave dancing career. And I came to America, and I saw a prejudice against racism, and I couldn't put up with it. I'm not stupid, I'm not deserved to do that. So I studied English 5 years. I was age 40, not young. And then age 45, I got a teaching certificate. It's called ESL, English as a Second Language. I worked at the public school, and I thought that America was greater than any other countries and any other people, because even 20 years ago, 30 years ago, Korea was poor. When I was young, we went through, Korea was poor. So it was one of a dream to go to America. So I felt that I could be happy when I came to America. But the situation was opposite. I became a public school teacher, and then I saw teacher, some ugly side of the society. Very selfishness, basically very selfish. And I remembered Father Moon declared to thousands of people in the Washington Monument, I came to save America. I came to, what did he say? As a fireman, to, he said that, right? At that time, I felt like I didn't have a faith, and I felt like, oh my gosh, he exaggerated. Kind of a little ashamed. I felt ashamed, shy, because he was too exaggerating, I felt. And he was too much, I felt. But after I became a teacher, I felt that. And I had to admit to myself, I was wrong. So I was starting to read psychology books. And mentally, I was very, very weak. And I thought that I didn't come to America to please Americans who are not the right model, good model. Then I left my country, and this Korean American society is not good model also. Then I didn't have any place to go. And then my mentor, I took a project. You know what is a project? Kind of a mental medicine. Project?
Prozac.
Yeah, project. Oh, yeah. And one day, as Pastor Guerra mentioned, I was a long-time minister, long-time church member, but I didn't have much faith because I joined the church because of my parents joined the church. And even though I was not a second gen, my mentor is like a second gen, totally. And I heard all kinds of rumors and gossips and good points and bad points before I learned the divine principle. And I was able to see Father Moon all the time when I was young. So it was nothing really new. He was either screaming or crying or big laugh. He never speak with a normal voice. So I felt that I will be in danger if I go close to him. Really. Long time, that was him. So I just tried to stay away from kept some distance from church, because that way I will be safe. And God didn't let me keep staying in that safe zone I made. So, my dear friend, Heju, she one time called me, and I talked about my difficulties. And she called me and said, "Onni, you must come to New York." And I said, well, I'm not well. I cannot go to school, and I cannot even go downstairs and have a meal now, and I can't get up. And she said, well, you're gonna die someday anyway. I mean, your mind is hell. So better just to take a how do you call it? Chance. So I said, okay. I packed the luggage and I flew next day to New York. That was, even though I was able to dance in front of a father numerous times when I was young, and that's another different whole story. And he really loved me, because that time our church went through persecution. it was a hard time, 1960 I'm talking about, 60. And I was dancing, and I remember one day, I was told to come and dance because I was the only dancer that time. It was before Father founded the Little Angels. 3 years before Father founded the Little Angels, I started to dance in front of him. So I was the only dancer and didn't have much choice. My father told me to do dance when there is some church event. It was not an option. And Father Moon is also, of course, he knows he's very sensitive, and then he saw my face, and I just I had some kind of a frown face and this kind of standing with a fan, kind of, and then he just tried to please me so I could dance. And then one day I was standing, and then it was some holiday, it was packed. The church, all the Cheongpadong church is a small church, but people were crying all the time, laughing, shouting all the time. And a lot of persecution, some other Christians came and fight, and it was chaos. And there was no room to dance, and the father was sitting. That was around father and mother blessing their marriage. Before, it was before. And he looked at me and he saw me not happy, and he said, "Okay, everybody stand up." So move back, go back to 3 steps. But there was no space to go back. So, and then he just told it to move back. So they did 1, 2, 3, but their voice was shouting, but actually they couldn't go any further back. And then he said, sit down from the front line. And then everybody from the middle, I heard screaming because of no room. And all the room was occupied, and whoever sat down first, and the other people's room was gone. And then he said, now you dance. So I have those kind of many stories. That is, it's many, but so we don't have much time today. So when I meet father, true parents, after Haeju Guerra called me, it was at the East Garden. Father and mother was quite alone by themselves. Nobody was there. None of them were in the hall. And I was afraid to go close to him because I just live for myself. I was living well, and then I was afraid he gonna kick me or snap me or something. What did you do? Where were you? Something like that. But he knew that my faith was not strong enough, and he knew I was very vulnerable. And he said, "Oh, you came?" And then he welcomed me. So I was able to sit down very close in front of his feet. And he was telling about why we have to go through this path. What is our responsibilities? And as a Moon clan, he said, "Do you think I want to take this course?" No, I didn't have a choice. God needed me. Like that, as a Moon clan, you have a responsibility. If anybody don't do their job, somebody else can take that job and go. But as a Moon clan, if we don't do our job, then God's providence will be finished. And I cried and cried about an hour, continuously cry. I didn't hear anything, just I cried. That was fully my awakening experience. So I went to UTS. And from that time, that was when I was 50, my age 50, there was time. So I knew from inside, I joined the church too late. So I knew that I have to catch up. I didn't have time. I had to do marathon. You know, I couldn't just do the normal, live like a normal people. And so I promised myself, okay, I'm going to UTS, and I will never quit Hundoke until a while I'm there as a student. Well, I did. I quit. I had to skip Hundoke a few times because either I was sick or I had to go and attend the Father Moon's Hundoke, which takes 2 hours to trip in the morning. Other than that, I didn't skip Hundoke. And then I went through. I was starting to realize what kind of characters I have had in my mind: jealousy, fears, arrogancy, frustration, and you name everything. Okay, everything. So because I had too many fallen nature, I was overwhelmed. I didn't know how to overcome those, so I picked only picked 3 words, and then pray, days and months and years. And then once I feel like one bad character disappear, then I add another my bad point I strongly have. So always I had 3 of Satan characteristics, and then so I was really focused on myself. I was desperate to develop internally better. As time passed by, I realized I was walking 2 people. On top of me, there was Hee Moon also, always watching me. So one was on top and looking at me, watching me like a hawk, whether she's doing a good job or a bad job. And here is my real me on the earth. So it became automatic. It became just like that. I was walking like that continuously, years. And when I was in UTS, I heard Father Moon called, there was a huge big workshop in Yosu. Have you ever attended there? That was approximately like 7 years ago. And then in there, Father called all Moon Clan came out and they gave a mission. That was all the Moon Clan must live in Yosu and Komundo. Yosu is way down south to Korea. And then if you want to go to Komundo, where I was a minister 2.5 hours by ferry, you have to take a ferry at Yosu. So Yosu Komundo is kind of a, one kind of a, we call region, something. He said everybody, all the Moon Clan must live there. And when I hear that in UTS, I knew why he was doing it. That was because of Father couldn't go to Jeonju, North Korea, couldn't restore his hometown. So he designated Komundo as his hometown because Commando in Chinese character, he changed the Chinese character slightly. It says the way to go, the big, like a moon clan. I'm sorry, top of my head, called big moon clan island. He said that. So at that time I knew that we had to go. But I heard in America, nobody went to Commando, and only one family was living in Yosu. After I finished my course, my study, I felt that there was nothing left I can do in America. I wanted to go back to Korea. I felt that there must be something I can do for God. And the main reason I decided to come to Korea was that I was a theologian, minister, there was a theologian school, right? So I had to practice it. That was the key. Without practicing God's words, it's just my dissertation is a piece of paper. So I went to, at the time, Father flew to Yosu often and had a hundoke. And I showed up there. Father recognized me and said, "What are you doing here? You're supposed to be in America. Aren't you Dean of Students in UTS?" So yes, I graduated so and then this was a Commando. He gave me a sign in my what do you call it? Diploma. And then he said, "Come and give a testimony." I gave a testimony and I said, "I heard, Father, you called all the Moon Clan to go to Commando and Yosu, but none of Moon Clan went to Commando. I like to go to Commando because I need to practice my faith." And he was overjoyed. I was surprised. He was too happy. Okay, I felt like, he was really surprised. Pleased, and then he just talked good things about me. How good I was. So I was really embarrassing. She's a good dancer. Not only that, she was a dean of students and doctor. Whatever. He just. So that means, how much he was longing to listen to him, but didn't do that for years. So I went to Commando, and then I just, on the second day, I was busy, to do witness and meet people and introduce who Father is, why he is on the earth, what is his mission. And they start to open their mind, and I became so close with them. This is a fisherman town, so I dressed like a fisherman. I was talking like a fisherman because I shouldn't act like a sophisticated person. They're gonna say, okay. I learned that island people, they don't trust mainland people because people comes and goes. The mainland people come and travel and they leave, so they don't give really love. They pretend they give love, but not really. They just act like kind, but not really. They don't share their heart. That's what I learned. Anyway, I had to change myself like country and ignorant old woman. and they have a strong accent. And I directly went to Commando from America first. Korean many words were changed, so I couldn't understand Korean words. And the second, I had to deal with their strong accent, so half of their words couldn't understand. Then I just, for 3 months, I just said yeah, but really I didn't know what they were saying. Anyway, I cut the, in the it's because it's a fisherman town. I just was part of them. I washed their dishes in the kitchen, days and days. Some people own the shop, like restaurants, and I cut the, fish stomach, hours and hours in the cold, weather, icy cold weather in winter time. And I felt like even my back was, because I was a long time dancer, my back is not strong enough and knees are gone also. But anyway, I just, it was so hurting my back, but I just pretend I was happy. And then if there's nothing else to do, then I gave, if they all sore, everybody, we all feel like we want to, that would be nice if we can get some massage, right? Doesn't matter young or old. And then I start to give, whenever, if I cannot approach to them, if I can help anything else, then I start to give a massage. Young people, old people, doesn't matter. So people thought that, your hands are strong. Once I give a massage about an hour, after to give 2 people, then my fingers got hurt at my fingers. And but I was happy. And they welcomed me. They welcomed me as a part of the community. And so monk there was a monk became my friend. And then I often, when father came, we went out to the ocean for fishing. And in a very tiny, from there to about this much small place, sometimes he and I sit down together quietly. And I don't know what to do, really. I feel so uncomfortable. And then he didn't say anything, quiet. And then one day, he said, that means this one, the same thing. So I sat down a little closer, and then he was asking me to come continuously close to him. So I had to sit down just next to him, and he said, "You are doing a good job." And that time I felt like, if there is some hole, I wanted to hide. Because what did I do? Actually, not much. And all I did was volunteering to come to Commando, but before I lived for myself. And father, how much he sacrificed his life for others. But he compromised me. He told me, how much you working hard. Okay, so, and then he said, Sonia, please look at the mountains. Isn't it beautiful today? The boat was moving, and then he pointed and just said, how is your mom? How is your dad? Like that. So I had a dear friend who is a monk in Japan. She is a dancer also. Her temple is so big. One of the biggest temple in Japan, in that region, and about 200,000 peoples are passing by a year. And then I called her. I wanted to introduce her to him. It is another story, because of when father came by helicopter, he can leave in any minute. But from Seoul to here, I mean, first of all, he had 3 houses, America, Korea, Japan. He was visiting Korea, and next day he had a performance. And I called her. So thank you. Please come. But I didn't know when the father would leave. But anyway, I just said, please, you should come, and you should meet Father Moon. So through all the very chaotic situation we went through, and then Father, I didn't know how to approach, how to introduce her to him out of blue. So I said that, there is a religious people, and who has a big temple, and she's also a dancer. That's why she and I have a very close relationship. And then I introduced her to him, and he was so happy.
Wow.
And she's a big person. He has many hats, and very, very capable, and well-known in Korea, very famous dancer. And through my dance, we know very well. And she's a monk. Also, she's an adjunct teacher in UCLA. Father was so happy, and then we had a really, really nice time. So, and then that time, I realized that when we bring people, how much Father likes. So Father, the reason why she was wearing Korean dress was that because she's a well-known dancer in Korea. I told her, just wear Korean dress in case you have opportunity to dance. Actually, she was a monk too. She could wear monk clothes. But I suggest her to bring Korean dress because I wanted her to dance in front of Father. So that's why, because I know that she might not have enough time. She might not have enough time to change clothes. So I just asked her to dress like that. And she danced. Father asked her to dance, and then he also asked me to dance. One thing I did in Commando was dancing. Oftentimes, he asked me to dance. And at that time, he was so happy. That was a year before Father went to the spiritual world. And he said, in 기원절, how do you call 기원절 in English? Foundation Day, both two of you must dance. So if Father was alive, we could. But that didn't happen. So that time, I knew, that was the best moment in my life. Look at Father, we had a good time, personal, time, we could, how honorable that was. And so I just realized to make Father happy, parents happy, we must bring people to God and introduce Father. And I strongly felt it. And that was the first time I tapped myself and said, Sonia, you did a good job. First time and last time. Thank you. Am I talking too long?
No.
Are you sure about that? So I start to have a strong motivation to do witness. You know where that came from now. And the last experience I had with the father was that was the last hundoke in Commando before father went to the spiritual world. And that was July, I think end of July, he visited a Commando at last. And that time, my physical father went to the spiritual world that time, not long ago, about a month ago or something. So he told me, talk about your father. And so I gave my testimony. I said that church was empty. Just the father appointed me as a minister. One day he came and said, there were many, church leaders always following, coming with the father, and there are also president of Cheonhagung and all the important people were there. And he told everybody, Sonny is responsible of a commando, and appointed me as a minister. And then every time he came, he gave me strength because he knew that I didn't have a foundation in the church. I mean, yes, officially, and as a minister. So every time he came, he just asked me, and even he asked everybody, do you follow Sonny or not? Answer me. He even said that. So that means he was giving me strength to stand up as a minister. So Father told me, tell about after your father passed away. And I said, I strongly pray to God, my father you must help me. Because church, it was empty. There was no church member. There was only one church member in Commando. There was Commando Cheonjong, the building. But those people is a hotel. They cannot come. They have to stay in the hotel. Couldn't come. A member even couldn't come because they had a job. The husband was a fisherman. The woman is working at that building. So it was empty. I desperately prayed, days and months and years, and said, whoever come across the door cannot go out. Finished, period. I just promised God, I will do anything and everything I could do. And they cannot go out. So I witnessed in one and a half years, short time minister's experience, I was able to witness 7 people. And after my father passed away, as I said, you must help me. This church is empty. Even though they join the church, they're not always coming, So I just, and then father that time, that was the last day father came. So more and more I knew that the father was becoming very weak, and I sensed that could be the last day. So I had to say everything I had to say. I said 2 things. One, I strongly believed spiritual world. And that time, particular that day, but more and more as a father was coming, he said, I cannot open my eyes It's so painful. So through Hundoke whole time that day, he didn't open his eyes whole time. Even he was walking and sitting in his chair with supporting two people next to each other. So until Yanshil Yang gave Hundoke, he was closing his eyes whole time, and he was talking to me. He was closing his eyes, and when I was talking the spiritual world, and I believe my Father, you must help me, and I believe I must, because there was nobody that I can believe, because it was empty, no people. I couldn't see people in the church, but I had so many concerned. I heard so many concerned, and because I was alone, I was a woman, and ministers, Korean ministers called me, tried to comfort me. Oh, be careful, you're alone. Lock the door, at night you must leave door. I said, don't call me. I'm a minister. I have a job, and I will leave the door open. So who was it in the Bible? The woman who slept with Tamar. We call in Korean Tamar. She had to dedicate the sacrifice herself to inherit her blood lineage, right? So I mentioned about Tamar. I mentioned of Tamar. I'm a minister, If you want to say that, you don't need to call me. Because I was desperate, they discouraged me, That didn't help me. So I left the door open until I went to bed all the time. The drunkards came in and talked until 1 o'clock, so and so, all the stories. But I always left the door open. I was by myself in the church, sleeping by myself. But God protected me. So that's why, because of there was nobody, I really needed to talk to spiritual world. At that time, Father opened his eyes, right open. And you're right. He said that. And then he had a big smile that time. Because I had many experience giving testimony in front of Father. I just sometimes watching him, and I was relaxing. It was not that hard anymore. So I watched him, and he was smiling with a wide open. You're right. Spiritual world is there. That was one thing I promised, and the other thing was that, Father, I'm not leaving Komundo. I wanted to leave with his happiness. I didn't want him to concern, what if she's gonna go at some time and there's nobody. I wanted to make sure that Komundo would be fine. So I said, I'm not leaving. I will die here, I said. That's what I mean. I still feel like I want to go back. And then he left. And then I thought about, wow. And after he left, I thought, wow, true Father really, really expects us to believe spiritual word. And we should know the spiritual word is working through us. We must believe that. And the Father was so happy to hear that. And we have a lot of responsibilities here on the earth, but we are so limited person, And we need to let go of our anxious feelings and fears, all that. And a meditation is a very good to practice. And Hyungjin Moon, Hyungjin practiced a lot of meditation, and he just simply asked us to breathe in and feel that we are alive. And then when we breathe out, we say, thank you. We all gonna close our eyes, and I'm gonna read Hyungjin's word in Cheonwadang. We try to train the stabilizing mind and body unity. We quickly find out once we begin our meditation that our mind and body unity is not stable. Our body is here, but our mind is there. We are not one. The devil of distraction subvert our unity. In the practice, it is essential to not be judgmental of yourself. However, it is important to be self-honest. Don't be fooled. Self-honesty is not the touchy-feely, just accept yourself and all your flaws. And don't try to become better, kind of a sentimentality. Honesty requires great courage and the ability to sometimes sternly address your weaknesses, but it always leaves room for hope to become less egocentric and more mindful of all the God gifts in our lives. Please join me in prayer. Father, today we must leap up. We are lacking in strength, but we are facing this awesome conclusion of history in which it will not do unless we leap up scores of levels all at once. In spite of the fact that we standing in a position where we must go through the process of judgment, today we are in a deep sleep. Father, we are intoxicated by the word. We are traveling together with sin. We earnestly hope and desire, Father, that you will establish us as victors who, after having cleared away all the elements of sin, are able to return the glory of victory to you, who are the center of the cosmos. All the historical situations are tangled in ourselves today. Therefore, we honestly hope and desire, Father, that by our having cut all those tangles and having our center of liberation, you will establish us as beings of joy who are able to bow down respectfully to you while standing in a position of Jesus' friend. Please do not allow those of us whom you have chosen for the sake of the restoration of the kingdom of heaven to become people who live treading upon the idea of the kingdom of heaven. Please allow us to be able to go forward again and again, to sacrifice again and again, and to fight again and again until we are able to accomplish that ideal, led by the ideal of the kingdom of heaven. And we honestly hope and desire, Father, that you will allow us to able to endure, fight, and win until the time that we can attend you as our universal Father. Father, please take dominion over our mind eternally. We honestly ask that you will allow us to become sons and daughters who are able to offer deep vows of gratitude to our Father, who is the center of everything, through a new universal standard of life now, and who are able to be submerged in our love. We have humble prayed all these things in the name of the Lord, Aju, through Father's prayer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Davies. We really appreciate your words, and it's the reason I think we want everyone to have a chance to share in this community. Once we learn about each other, a lot of the misunderstandings, a lot of the divisions are going to disappear. And we really understand that we have one heart and one purpose. Thank you so much. At this time,